Good morning everybody, it's Graham again from Unearthed, and this is a completely new series of history on foot. In this lockdown I'm going to do some history walks of the historic monuments and sites around where I live. Now this is the first one I'm going to do, of Furness Abbey. Now as you can see, this is one of the gateways into the Abbey, which would have been an impressive, probably would have had an impressive archway over there and a big huge wooden door or two doors. And that led into the Abbey. This road here would have been the old track, which would have led to outlying villages where people would have come in and traded with the Abbey and got fed by the Abbey, worked for the Abbey. This part of the gateway is linked to the Abbey wall, which surrounded a huge area of parkland. And just above here was the ancient village of Sellergarth, which was destroyed by the monks that wanted to make more room for the deer park. So there is actually a deserted medieval village up there. So going through the gateway, as we can see, all built of sandstone, purely built of sandstone. The whole abbey was built of sandstone, nothing else. Ancient place. And of course in the distance you can see Furness Abbey. So let's get down there and take a closer look. So here we are at the very impressive Furness Abbey, which is right on our doorstep. As you can see, it's an extensive ruin built in, or founded in 1123. That's how old this place is. Absolutely amazing place. The history of this place is immense. It was the second richest abbey in the whole of the country at one time. I think the monks lived here for something like 412 years in total before its dissolution in the 16th century by Henry VIII, and it had seen a few skirmishes. It's not just the peaceful place it looks now. There's been a lot of conflict, a lot of stories, and a hell of a lot of history. Now I can give you some brief history from my background, what I've learned over the years. The monks here and the wealth of Furness Abbey was that big. They owned something like 55,000 acres of land, which stretched as far as Ireland. They owned the Isle of Man. In fact, talking about the Isle of Man, there's a king that's buried here from the Isle of Man. Not many people know that. King Reginald. I can't pronounce his proper name, so we're going to call him King Reginald. So he was the king of Isle of Man, and he is buried here, which is interesting. But also when we look at the abbey itself and the grounds, it looks very peaceful. But in the medieval period, 3 monks murdered one of the abbots here. So 3 monks actually set up on an abbot and murdered him. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a walk further around and see a little bit more of the abbey. So here we are at a particular area of Furness Abbey, which has always been classed as the amphitheatre, which is actually a natural amphitheatre. But the monks had fish ponds here, huge fish ponds. Now years ago we were allowed to detect by the tenant farmer around the areas above the ancient wall. On the fields above that we used to find some hammered coins and other bits and pieces. But yeah, fish ponds from the abbey. The monks used to have the fish ponds on there. Now there is an ancient route, and we won't take you on that today, but just a little bit further over the other side of the railway track there's an ancient packhorse bridge, which is called Bow Bridge, which linked the trade routes into this part of the abbey, which is here. You got a glimpse of Melanie there because she's come out with me today. Well, talking about this actually leads, the footpath here leads away out to the Irish Sea, believe it or not, where the abbey have got another castle called Peel Castle, which guarded the entrance into the harbour, the natural harbour from the Irish Sea. So a lot of the trade that came in from Ireland and the Isle of Man, the monks had the castle there guarding that, and it was all to do with storing of the wool trade and a lot of that sort of things that went on. So very interesting. But let's have another look at this ancient place. And of course you're not allowed to detect here. It's governed and marshalled now by English Heritage, so absolutely no detecting at all, certainly not in the grounds anyway. But look at this place, it's just absolutely amazing, and we're so lucky to have it right on our doorstep as well. Beautiful, beautiful place. And of course if we come around this way, I think the tallest building was something like 131 feet in its heyday. But we've got some really smart archwork around here, and of course, you know, it dates from the 12th century, but it's been built upon, added to over the centuries, and of course it came into its demise in the 16th century by King Henry VIII's men, who came and raided it, or whatever they did, and shut it down. But as you can see, there's a lot still remaining. It's a pity we couldn't get in there today and show you the actual masonry work and the stonework, but the abbey is completely made from sandstone, locally mined sandstone, nothing else. But what a fantastic place. There's a river that runs through it as well. There's some underground tunnels that link here, and there's a heck of a lot of folklore that goes along with the abbey, so I'm going to discuss that a little bit further on when we get round the other side. And as you can see, we are at another side of the abbey now, which you can actually clearly see the archways. A little bit of information about the abbey. There was obviously the abbots that lived here, the monks, and there was like there would have been peasants that worked around, and laymen that worked for the abbey, and there was probably a heck of a lot of trade that was going on. It wasn't probably as peaceful as it looks today. As I mentioned earlier, you know, there'd have been carpet when this place was built. It would have been a hive of activity for sure. You know, the stone masons, there would have been carpenters, there would have been labourers, there would have been people that were hunters for the food. It's just quite amazing to think what went on here all them years ago. Now, the other thing to mention, there's a lot of folklore based around the abbey, and a lot of rumour that there was ghosts and things, which is all obviously all just made up stuff. But one or two of the legends are the White Lady. She was supposed to haunt this place on a regular basis. There's the monk, the headless monk on a horseback even. And a lot of people record over time that they see, if you can see through them arches there's a group of stairs that lead up, sandstone stairs, which I'd love to show you today, but obviously we can't get in there to see it. But there was people see a monk often walking up and down them stairs on the stairway, which is a really wide open stairway. I've never seen anything, but as you can see through that gap there, I don't know if you can actually see that metalwork. We'll see if we can walk around and show you that, a better view of it, because I've got some information about that area. Right, everybody, we're at the part where I wanted to do a bit of a discussion. Now, not so long back, only a few years ago, they did an archaeological dig here in this part of the abbey, where they found the remains of an abbot who was buried with his sceptre and a gold gilded ring with a large stone on it. So they found some quite interesting artifacts. He was buried about 3 or 4 foot down, the bishop. So that was quite an interesting, got a lot of people interested and excited locally about that find. But as you can see, this area here has got the foundations of the ruins, and the ruins actually carry on right through where there's another archway which led to the trade route heading north. And a little bit later on, I'll take you on the footpaths that lead into the abbey, and a little bit of history about the footpaths, because they're just as important to me as the abbey itself. But as we can see walking back here, you see this little gatehouse, or a little hut. Maybe not gatehouse is probably the wrong word to use, so dismiss that from your memory. This little hut is where we as children came through the gate and paid our entrance fee, which is there, the little hut. Everybody paid to get into the abbey in there. Sadly, it's no longer in use, but we remember that fondly as children. So there is the fantastic Furness Abbey. There were some plays here in the early 1990s, mystery plays. I think it was Peter Duncan from Blue Peter fame came, and he was doing some acting, and he actually stood on the top of there right at the end. I remember it. There was a big crowd of people watching at night. It was all lit up, and the mystery plays of Furness Abbey, and yeah, he stood on the top of there. I don't know if he was pretending to be Jesus. I can't really remember much about it apart from him stood on there, but there it is. What a fantastic place. Right, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed that little bit brief history, and we'll now take you on the footpaths to finish the film. Keep watching. So everybody, earlier on I mentioned when we were looking at the abbey about the ancient routes that led into Furness Abbey, and this is one of them. As you can see, the footpath winds its way right down under the railway tunnel and beyond, and eventually you can pick up the route that leads to Furness Abbey. Now we know the monks from the abbey used this footpath extensively, and the reason is because this little beck, or the little river called Pokerbeck, had many little pack horse bridges built across it by the monks. Sadly, I was going to show you one this morning, but a few years ago it collapsed into the river, never to be seen again. But a little bit further down across the main road there is actually still a pack horse bridge remaining from them times, which is really good. Now we know also that the monks were great farmers, because the fields surrounding here have produced evidence of medieval activity. So we think, or I think personally, that there was a lot of sheep farming going on, as there is today. The monks were great sheep farmers for the wool. The wool was a commodity, the commodity they sold, and that's where they made the money. But this route is interesting particularly because if I just swizzle around, you can see in the distance the church, which was originally built on top of a medieval one, a much earlier one, and the castle is just behind it. So this route into the ancient capital of Furness, which is Dalton, would have been used extensively by the monks and their workers, back and forth, trade, etc. Now there is another footpath, I call it the Low Road, which runs across here. Again, that is the Monk's Way, the Cistercian Way, that leads to the Furness Abbey as well. So there was two routes this side that we know of that led into Furness Abbey. So very interesting stuff. What else can I tell you about this particular batch of land? We also know, I think, this is my opinion again, on Hag Hill, which is here. If you stand on top of Hag Hill, you've got a fantastic vantage point of Blackcomb in the north. You've got the Duddon Bay estuary here, and of course you can see right across to the Morecambe Bay estuary, so there's a good vantage point for both estuaries. Now again, only my thinking that there was a beacon on there, just like there was at Green Arm. Above Green Arm there would have been a beacon on Blackcomb, just to warn the abbey of any raids coming from the Scots. And we know there's been something going on up there because there's a hell of a lot of medieval activity been going on in the past, and that's only been found by the sterling work of the detectorist. Something, farmstead, grange, beacon, lookout tower, you name it, it's been up there, absolutely 100%. Okay, I hope that's been of use to you wonderful people. History on foot. If it's a success, we'll continue with it. Anyway, have a great day in this lockdown. I'll catch up with you all soon. Bye for now.